So we're live everywhere, live all across the board. Welcome in everybody to News Made Simple. This week it is myself and Philip Gibsonia talking about all the crazy things that have happened in the Bitcoin world. Luke may or may not join us. We don't know. He might be in a gulag somewhere, so maybe that's where it is. And if that's the case, Luke, it was nice knowing you, and we'll see you later. But yeah, let's get right into it. Oh, before we do, get yourself a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet. That's our sponsor. And if you'll hear in the news here and the stuff we discuss, but if you paid any attention to what's going on in Bitcoin, you are going to realize that yes, you do need to get your coins off the exchange, because guess what? We have been saying this whole time that they are not actually there, and the third largest exchange just went
Second,
bankrupt,
second.
and second largest, and they didn't have any of the coins. So it's really funny, not funny, it's sad, but it's ironic that all the things that we've been saying this whole time, and everybody's like, oh, you're just shilling for your sponsor, the hardware wallet. Well, it's like, well, yeah, we're shilling for our sponsor, but the reason we picked them as a sponsor is because we believe in them, and we believe in using a company like them and a good hardware wallet like the Bitbox O2 hardware wallet to get your coins off the exchange so you don't lose your life savings, because that is what's happening. So if you are one of the people that have been listening, and hopefully you did not have your coins on FTX, hopefully you have them somewhere else that hasn't collapsed yet. But this whole time you've been listening to us and you haven't got a hardware wallet, it's really not that hard to use. It's very simple. So go to shiftcrypto.ch/Bitcoin made simple. Use the promo code Bitcoin made simple, all one word, get 5% off your order. And please, I'm begging you, if you are one of those people that have your coins on an exchange, stop what you're doing right now, pause this episode, and go and do it. Yes, this is a shill, but it's also a friendly reminder, a gentle nudge. Because if I wasn't on FTX, but if I didn't listen to the maxis that taught me, then my coins would be at risk on an exchange at the moment. And we'll get into how probably all the exchanges are compromised and and are probably at risk. So I'm just telling you, plebs, get it now. Get a Bitbox O2 hardware wallet ASAP as possible, because you never know when you're going to need it. And once you see that your exchange goes belly up, you'll be glad that you did. So it's really easy to use. It's so easy to use that I do it all the time. I actually am addicted to it. I just buy sometimes in small little chunks just so I can throw it onto my hardware wallet because it's fun. That being said, yeah, also this isn't live on Movies Plus. So if you want to check out the live version of this, you can watch it for free on Movies Plus. It's all there. And you also want to check out Q Sent Me, which premiered today on Movies Plus. Use the promo code Cory, CORY, get yourself a Movies Plus subscription for $2 a month. And Q sent me about the Q Shaman. Pretty interesting, very interesting 3-part series. First episode aired today. It is live and available. It's the only interview footage with Jacob Chansley, the Q Shaman. So Phil, slow week in the news.
Yeah, absolutely nothing happened. Nothing of importance at all. So I thought we'd just kick off with kind of like the easy stuff that we can quickly cover, because the bigger story is the whole FTX SBF Alameda thing. But you're a miner, right, Cory? Sort of. That's with a ER, not an OR.
Yes, a Bitcoin miner. But here's the problem with my Bitcoin miner is that I have a wire that comes out the back and dumps them right into a lake that I go boating on all the time. So it's just yeah. So they're gone immediately. But I do it I do it for the exercise.
That doesn't sound very green. You're just dumping that Bitcoin and polluting that lake with Bitcoin.
Yep.
How dare you?
So what you want to talk about, the hash rate going parabolic?
Yeah, I mean, why? So in a Twitter space last night, I believe all these new S19s, these Bitcoin miners are just super efficient, like the S19S Pro or whatever the hell it's called. And it doesn't really take that much of those to get added to the network to really see an uptick. Is that how I should understand this, or what can you tell me from that?
Yeah, I mean, I forget how many terahash an S9 is. Let me just Google it real quick. But for example, like I have the S19 Pro J, so it's like the second to most recent. Um, it's the second most recent or most the newest generation. And it gets, if you put it in high power mode, it gets like 120, 130 terahashes. Normal power mode gets you like 120, 110. And then low power mode gets you like 98 to like 110 and terahashes. And so just for simple math for people, like so the terahash is basically um how many guesses it's making into the Bitcoin network. And that's what bumps the difficulty up, because the more terahashes that are mining, the quicker things will be found, so then the difficulty will keep going up. And so what I'm guessing is happening is like the S9s, a lot of people are kicking them off the network because the S9s are like 15 terahashes. So the S19s, what I have, which you know have progressively been coming online more and more over the last 6 months, um, those, if you're running at high power mode, you're up to like 140 terahash. But most, let's just say the average is 115 terahash. So you're like 10xing almost the terahashes just with one machine. Um, so that makes sense as to why that's happening. And then these new ones, the X Pro J or whatever um, they are 140 terahashes advertised. So I'm sure in the high power mode, you could probably get up to like 180. So like basically like 15x. A lot of people have 15x their terahash power. Probably is what's happening. So all these miners and everything were purchased over the last, probably like starting a year ago, and they've just been coming online as this has been going on. Um, so that I think is why it's at an all-time high in the terahash. And I'm not an expert, everybody, so there's probably people with better understanding of what's going on with terahashes, but that's just me as a lowly miner sitting here, you know, casting my vote with an electrical outlet and in voting for sats. But that's what I see what's going on, and that's what makes the most sense to me. In like a lot of companies, like everybody kept saying last year, like, hey, like such and such company is going to start mining Bitcoin, and we were all like, yay. And now I think we're facing the consequences of that, whether good or bad. I think it's good overall, but still, it's I wish the difficulty would go down, because basically right now I'm using a DCA machine, um, and the cost of the electricity is basically the cost of the Bitcoin. Now my electrical rate actually wouldn't be profitable. I'd actually be losing money, except for the fact that it is now switched over to cold weather, and my house is my people. I always say I'm just using this for comparison's sake, so nobody think like, oh, he's bragging, and like it's like I live in a mansion. But so my house is like 4,500 square feet, and the whole house, the heater hasn't run yet. And here we are, like less than 2 weeks or 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving, and my heater hasn't kicked on. And I compared my electrical bill, because my heat runs off electricity. My electrical bill from I think it was April or March. One of them was a comparable weather to what October was, and the electrical bill is the same, but I didn't have a miner running in that month. So basically, right now, my heater is not running, keeping the house nice and warm just with the miner, and I don't even have it pumped into my duct system yet.
That's awesome.
And so my electrical bill, if I didn't have a miner running, my electrical bill would have been the same because it would have been running to heat my house. But now instead, instead of paying for a heating bill, I'm just stacking sats with it. That'll be even more parabolic once we get to, a better Bitcoin price, but, hash price. But yeah, that's what's going on. So, I mean, if you have access to cheap electricity, I'd recommend getting one. Also, I mean, the prices of these miners have gone down significantly. So, if you are sitting there and you've got like $3,500 that you're like, you know what, maybe, and you're sitting comfortably in other places, and it's something that you can like, you basically like a toy you can mess around with, but like also helps you stack sats. I'd recommend doing it. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at there. And yeah, I think it's just going to keep going parabolic here for a little bit, and strap in, folks. When we get into the FTX stuff, this has my theory, my kind of bullish case, which I'm not trying to be like bullish because I'm pretty bearish on what's going on in the world and the market, but the quickness that the bullish case can be flipped back on. But anyways, Phil, what else do we got?
Well, good news. CPI came in at 7.7%. So
Woo!
that's down from 8.2 or whatever the hell it was last month. And to me, this is just clear evidence that Jerome Powell, arguably our last fucking only hope that we have here for survival as a nation in America, quantitative tightening is working. But don't be mistaken, inflation isn't really what Powell cares about. As Daniel DiMartino Booth says politically correctly, it is the intention of the Fed to destroy the leveraged loan market. But what she won't say is destroying the offshore leveraged loan market. Basically, shadow banking, people using base zero money reserves in banks, not in America, to leverage up and create credit dollars beyond the Fed and America's jurisdiction. Those credit dollars are what flooded our economy in 2008, and that, along with low interest rates, further exacerbated the great financial crisis. So we're just trying to divorce ourselves monetarily from the rest of the world. We have already done that by moving away from LIBOR, the economy arbitrary, central planning rates that was determined at the center at the City of London by 18 panel banks. And we said, fuck that. We're going to index our debt to an American rate determined by the commercial banking sector of America. And we're just going to go our own way. And we're not going to be the bank that bails out the world. We're going to be America's bank. But yes, Powell's
The
job
danger
is
is that you're saying they're America first.
Yeah, they are America first, believe it or not. Despite the lack of the red wave that we have, that's why I say Jerome Powell is kind of our only hope here. And I'm rooting on him to bankrupt Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and these European commie oligarchs and their old legacy fiat money system that they pretty much created. You can go back and look at the Rothschilds and all this. Like, they created this cancer of financial plumbing. And America was just another vassal that they used. And they want their colonies back. And Jerome Powell, as I probably mentioned already on this show, is 8th generation Virginian aristocracy, the people that funded the American Revolution. And he's saying, screw you guys, I'm going home. I'm going to protect America and our banks and our economy. And I'm not working
For our
for
college football watching friends, the Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. If you remember that.
So yeah, and if you listen to folks like Daniel DiMartino Booth, she and others will say monetary policy happens on a lag, but this lag has kind of sped up beyond anybody's expectations. And going back to earlier this year, when you had Peter Schiff's and even people in the Bitcoin space saying the Fed can't raise rates by 1%, it's going to destroy everything. Well, first of all, the goal is to break something. As I said, the leveraged loan market offshore, or the offshore dollar market, or the euro dollar system. That is the goal. And here we are at the terminal rate being like 4 point something percent, almost 5%. Tom Luongo and others, I am convicted that let's go 6%. up yours, 6% Fed funds rate. That is the goal. And here we are nearly at a Fed funds rate of 5%, and nothing's broken. Yeah, the middle class is
hurting,
feeling the hurt and the heat, but as Paul Volcker did, and Jerome Powell sees him as a Paul Volcker 2.0 in many senses. And you can go back to the economic correction before the Great Depression, when we just kind of let the markets take care of things. It was a depression or an economic crisis much worse than the Great Depression, but they were out of it within a year because they let markets do what markets do. Now we're still under the thumb of arbitrary monetary policy, where somebody's dictating we're going to raise rates by 75 basis points this month and that, but still Powell is forcing the economic austerity that we have needed. And so he's not a Janet Yellen, he's not a Ben Bernanke, and he was saying from the get-go these near zero interest rate policies are going to destroy America. So he's turning stuff around.
Just quickly before we move on, like, how long do you think he'll be continue? Where do they want inflation to drop to before they?
They say 2%. People say it's not going to be 2%. It really doesn't matter, because again, this isn't about inflation. This is about America asserting not only its monetary independence, but its independence as a country.
Even though interest rates or the inflation went down, we're not looking. Inflation didn't go down year to year. It just went down month to month. Like, compared to how much it went up last month, it didn't go up as much. So people were probably going to think like, oh, okay, they'll start easing, but that's not happening anytime soon.
No, they're not going to ease. They're not going to pivot, and stopping like all this copium and hopium of a Fed pivot is not going to happen. And people want it to happen so much that they think that a pause in raising rates counts as a pivot. Go jump off a bridge. Like, you're smoking crack. Like, the hopium is much too high. Pull your head out of your ass and face reality. And now I'm warming up to the idea that perhaps Jerome Powell will not want to hurt his friends on Wall Street and have the markets take care of, have them not suffer as hard by raising 75 basis points in the Fed funds rate month to month. So I'm warming up to the idea, like Nick Bocci and others say, that, the Fed operates on a cyclical basis. So maybe we're coming out like the high rate cycle, high rates area in the cycle, and we're just going to see next month 50 basis points, and then the month after that 25, and then 25 after that. Maybe, but still, at some point they're going to keep rates where they are. But again, if I were Powell, I would just do 75 or maybe even a whole point consecutively until enough damage is done. Because the sooner that we rip the Band-Aid off and go through this hurt, the sooner we'll be out of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the Fed's not going to pivot. The only thing that can make the Fed pivot is if Europe forces us into World War III to fight their war in Russia. That's it. And that's how we have gotten into World War I and II, because we are fighting someone else's war, because they're commie colonialists and they used America as their military arms. And I think that hopefully there are enough America First people within the military. You have people like Douglas McGregor and Scott Ritter coming out. They're as American as apple pie. Scott Ritter was practically Tom Cruise in Top Gun, like literally, like that was his profession. And they are just coming out, and like Scott Ritter himself is having like Russian ministers come on his podcast to say, this is how we feel. This is what's up. Nobody really wants to go to World War III, but the international order is so anti-Russian and so anti the global South and Asia that, again, they just see them as dirt people, and they want them to just let the European oligarchs roll over them and take all the
Why can't we all just get along? Why can't we all just be friends?
Because we are ran by greedy European oligarch globalists, Malthusians, and we are just the cattle. We are just their tax cattle, and they want to depopulate the world.
They are. Then when they say they want to reduce the carbon, just a reminder, you
Yeah.
are the carbon they want to reduce.
Yep.
Okay, so now moving on because we have about 10
Can't
minutes
believe
left.
we went from talking about the inflation rate to like the end of the world
Yeah, it happens quickly.
like that.
It happens quickly
Oh
on
yeah.
in the Bitcoin world. So FTX, for those of you that don't know, SBF, which is Sam, unbelievably his last name is Bankman Fried.
Bankman Freed.
I mean
Yeah,
Freed,
but
but
yeah.
it's spelled Fried.
Yeah.
Bankman Fried.
Yeah, it's just like Bernie Madoff. Like he made off with a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You can't make this shit up.
Yep. So he was the second largest exchange.
Yes.
And
Second to Binance.
and so we've been telling everyone, like, because everybody's like, Coinbase could never go down, blah blah blah, and we've been saying for
Coinbase
years,
is fine, just for the record.
yeah,
They're compliant, but anyway.
but everybody's like, these big companies, there's no way, and then all of a sudden, I mean, everybody probably thought FTX was compliant, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it all
So
goes to where is all their money and how leveraged are they and what are their liabilities.
so yeah, so anyways, all of a sudden FTX comes out and says, hey, we don't have any money, all of our money's gone.
Kind of.
And Luke, just walk, or Luke's, sorry, Phil. Luke's the one that is in the gulag. Phil, just quickly give us the tea leaves of the details. What happened? How they got wiped out, and then we'll talk into how
Yeah.
to avoid
So
this in the future.
this that just came in. Blockworks tweeted just a little over an hour ago that 134 of FTX's firms filed for bankruptcy. Now, the parent company of FTX is Alameda, which is basically, it's still FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried's operation. But let me just give you kind of like the quick rundown, and we could do a complete like hour, 2 hour thing on this, but I will just be as brief and concise as possible.
Yeah, maybe we should do just like a long-form
I was
discussion
talking to
about
Jim
this.
about this. Maybe we can kind of go through this as a one-off episode.
Who
But
talking to who?
here's what happened. Okay, Binance, ran by CZ. Binance is the number one like largest crypto exchange in the world. So that's one partner, and then you have one character in this thing, and then you have FTX / Alameda Research, which is ran by Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF for short. So Alameda FTX is Alameda is a hedge fund that recently, if you remember from the spring, kind of bailed out Terra Luna, BlockFi, all those crypto exchanges that just went tits up. All right. Now the irony now is that, well, not so much anymore, but CZ was the one saying that they're going to buy out FTX, because what had happened is that CZ was kind of friendly with SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, and bought a bunch of the FTX token, which was FTT, basically their stable coin, backed by nothing and provided no utility whatsoever. And CZ bought a bunch and listed it on Binance. And usually these shitcoin casino owners will make a coin and get their buddies in on the pre-mine so that when it hits the market and retail buys it and buys into the FOMO propaganda, then the big whales holding all the bags will just sell all of their shares. And it's a classic pump and dump where retail is the last one holding the bag of shit that they were falsely advertised. So CZ realized that the FTT token wasn't worth anything. Surprise, surprise, which he already probably knew. I'll get to some of the motives possibly later. And started to slow roll that Binance would begin divesting their holdings. And the truth is that CZ knew that FTT was worthless, but he decided to stab SBF in the back because I believe SBF was basically forcing as many exchanges as possible to be compliant to U.S. security regulations and make them all KYC compliant. And if you know anything about CZ, he's not based out of any one jurisdiction himself or his operations, and he's island hopping to avoid the jurisdiction, the regulations and not be compliant. Because otherwise, if he did, he wouldn't be able to provide that arbitrage of going 100x and just borrowing a bunch of this money and, making bank and arbitraging his versus other exchanges that are compliant. And you have SBF on the other end, where there's a quote of him saying, I want to basically not beg for forgiveness, but ask for permission from the regulators and be compliant with them. So he's all about compliance. His family is really freaking sketchy. Like, both of his parents are Stanford Law, like they're lawyers, and then friends of his are close with Gary Gensler. I think Gary Gensler is a Davos like World Economic Forum troll. He has not done anything positive for regulation of the crypto sector of any sort. And this all kind of like goes back to all this leverage that is created outside of the jurisdiction of the United States and coming and wrecking us here in retail. So Gary Gensler is not doing us any favors there. But let's get back to the main topic at hand. So the truth is, CZ knew that FTT was worthless and decided to stab SBF in the back because SBF was basically just forcing as many exchanges as possible to be compliant. And to recall back from the spring, SBF was being held as the JP Morgan of crypto when he was bailing out all those failed projects earlier this year. And so he was compliant to the T with regulators and is arguably now quite compromised, seeing that he's gone on television with Bill Clinton. He was the second largest donor to the Democratic Party, fourth largest if you lump in both Republican and Democrat parties. So this dude's compromised. And this is how much he wants to basically, kiss ass to the powers that be and stay alive. And maybe literally now, but who knows how protected he is. I think he's just a Davos vassal shill through and through.
And so CZ sells all of his FTT.
Yeah, FTT is basically going to zero. I'll get to that. So CZ was essentially...
Yeah, we only have a couple minutes left, so...
Yeah, I'll try to speed this up. So CZ was essentially...
Sorry, everybody. I know you probably want to hear more, but we have a meeting that we have to be at. And so this, we have a hard deadline on News Made Simple because this is just news, but we should do a long form. But anyways, we'll do a long form on another episode. But go.
Honestly, I think CZ was just trying to escape this, like, the soft power thing that SBF was being a vassal of, like, powers that be. And basically where we are now is that the contagion runs deep with Alameda. All of these other exchanges like BlockFi and countless other exchanges in the crypto area that offered yield products, it was all tied back to Alameda. That's where their financing came from. And now you're seeing every one of these companies liquidate their Bitcoin holdings to make do on as many of their shareholders or like loans or whatever is possible. And so that's why you're seeing Bitcoin dip as it is. And all of this is fixed if you just take your Bitcoin off the exchanges, don't do any cutesy stuff and try to get yield on it. As you can see, it's all just a domino effect. This is like the Lehman Brothers moment of crypto. You're seeing all of it fall down. So just, maybe get a Bitbox.
I mean, the sad thing is there's just so many people that have been left. Like that at FTX will be left with probably like 10 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Because we've been saying this whole time, your Bitcoin is not there. So, get your Bitcoin off the exchange when you can, because they're rehypothecating your Bitcoin. I mean, we've said this so many times, and so many more people with louder voices and more bigger audiences have said it more than I have. So that's how I knew that they were, they were telling the truth. It was the real deal. And and so this, I mean, is probably worse than Mt. Gox.
Oh, yeah, 100 times worse.
And because a lot of institutions got burned on this. So this is a setback. But the bullish case, and I'm like not one to be like the super like perma bull, but this thought crossed my mind because for the longest time I was like, I feel like the price of Bitcoin, like we know, okay, finite supply, 21 million, blah, blah, blah. Like, the supply and demand, it's going to go up, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how is this price not just like soaring with the amount of Bitcoin that was being taken off of exchanges into cold storage? The fact that, in 12 years, the block reward will be less than 1 Bitcoin. I'm like, this is insane. Like, how's this price not 400, 500K? Like it should be. Um, and then I was like, wait a minute. What if they're just rehypothecating so much that like really like what's being bought and sold is way exceeding the 21 million Bitcoin that'll ever exist, let alone the amount that's actually in circulation. Um, so I do see a scenario, and I'm not a technical person. I'm not this isn't my field of expertise. I'm just saying I do see a scenario on the broad spectrum where we have some short-term pain here for maybe, I don't know, 6 months to a year. But once this is all cleaned up, once every exchange has proof of reserves, so that there's no more of this rehypothecation.
I don't think that's going to happen, but go on.
Probably not. Once we can flush that all out, if we can flush that all out, and we have the true honest system, and we know how much Bitcoin is out there, then run. Maybe that's the next bull run. Maybe that's the 2024. It just absolutely rips because all of a sudden there's not all this fake Bitcoin being sold, all this paper Bitcoin being sold.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, if you think about it, like all the all-time highs were basically from leverage, right? And just keep like continually bidding it up. And I think it'd be nice that your scenario that you laid out does play out, but I think it's going to be a mix of both. But right now, there's like nobody really buying or trading this thing. They're just selling it on the market because they have to, them being the exchanges. And once that's done, I think there is a 50-50 chance, depending on where support is and how much longer people are going to have to liquidate their Bitcoin. But I think it's 50-50 chance, hopefully more so to the upside, that we do see a rip. Because, yeah, this is the first completely finite asset, which is digital, that can't be replicated. So it's going to be interesting. Who knows? But CZ is not going to buy out FTX because it's just a whole giant can of worms. So again, all of them are declaring Chapter 11 bankruptcy, all 134 of those firms. So yeah, you can go check this out yourself on Blockworks, was the Twitter account. But verified, by the way, you can also get verified with $8. Actually, no, I don't think you can anymore because they took that off because people were verifying dumb accounts or something. But yeah, it's a shit show. But that's why you have a BitBox02 hardware wallet. So you can
gotta get one. It's not a joke. This is not a drill, people. We've been saying all along, get yourself a BitBox02 hardware wallet from Shift Crypto. Go to shiftcrypto.ch/Bitcoin Made Simple. Use promo code Bitcoin Made Simple, all one word, to get 5% off. But yeah, it's not a joke. Before they become insolvent, get your Bitcoin off there. And like I had done that a long time ago, but even when the FTX thing went, I like went into every exchange account I had, and I was like, oh, there's like $4 sitting there that like I forgot about, like shaking the couch cushions, getting it all out. We can only do so much. Guess what, people that thought the Bitcoin maxis hurt my feelings, guess what, they were right the whole time, and we need more of them because they were sitting here calling out scammers the entire time. So turn to the Bitcoin maxi closest to you and say thank you, and I should have listened. And don't worry about them being too harsh and too mean. You're going to drive people away. You know what drives people away? The second largest exchange going bankrupt because they were using clients' funds. So yeah. Anyways, get yourself a BitBox02 hardware wallet. And as always, tune in if you want to watch this live on Movies Plus. That's where you can check it out. And go check out Q Sent Me. You guys are going to love it. But yeah, I appreciate all of you as always. We'll do a long form deep dive into this, talk about, this whole SBF, FTX. Can we have more acronyms? CZ, BTC, OTT platform stuff. Anyways, I'm just throwing things out there. I appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.
Hold up.
Is this a phone call or is this a Zoom meeting for the meeting?
Phone call.
Okay.
Um. So yeah. So
How
all right. Yeah.
people done on subscription so far?
Like 20 some so far.
Right.
So not bad, but like, it's Thursday night, um, in the middle of the night. Uh,
The
uh
the tweet or trailer we put out on Twitter was doing well, but I saw that Jack Posebic retweeted it, so I guess that's why.
and Cernovich.
That's good.
And yeah. Um anyways, well yeah, let's hop off. I'll get ready for the call
All right.
and I'll see you in a minute.